what is the meaning of life, and what does it mean to lead a meaningful life? When you open a discussion of this on the internet, maybe you shouldn't expect any better than the response that I've gotten from Richard, Vegan Gains. Maybe you shouldn't expect anything better than to have someone write back to you with a bunch of insults about the size of your penis and boasts about how they make more money than you, something we all knew at the start of this conversation, by the way. Maybe you shouldn't expect any better. For veganism as a movement, even for just YouTube as a platform for entertainers and aspiring filmmakers, I think we should expect better. And I'm going to get straight to the point here and read the reply I sent to Richard just about an hour ago now. I ask you this, though. How much better off would veganism be today if we had leaders who were approximately as intelligent as Bill Clinton? Bill Clinton is still in the news. He's still out there talking about politics, partly, of course, because his wife continues to be a politician to some extent. Back when Bill Clinton was president of the United States of America, most of us thought of him as very foolish. Most of us thought of him as not particularly intelligent. And then the memory of Bill Clinton was transformed when all of us were living through the era of George W. Bush. And George W. Bush was so poorly spoken, so scattered, he made so many strange gaffes, that it seemed in retrospect as if Bill Clinton was some kind of intellectual giant compared to what we all had to become accustomed to in the era of George W. Bush. But my point is here, Bill Clinton, of maybe medium intelligence.
You always want to be underestimated by your adversaries. He consistently benefited by being underestimated. And so did I.
Bill Clinton would have never made the mistake that Gary Yourofsky made in his ridiculous, embarrassing YouTube video about Palestine and Israel and Palestinians. If you guys don't know the video, don't watch it. It's still up. He never deleted it. He never retracted it. He never apologized. He got further dug in, and he just justified his position by saying that he hates all of humanity, that he's not a racist, and he's not anti-Palestinian, that he just hates everyone so much. It doesn't matter. It's still a stupid and impolitic video. It makes veganism look bad. It makes him look bad. It basically ended his career. It definitely ended the possibility of his cooperating with larger organizations like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, whom he had cooperated with in the past. Now a very distant memory. Bill Clinton never would have done that. Or if somehow Bill Clinton had, he would have talked his way out of it with a certain professional demeanor. Now, likewise, any of these people, looking at Richard, looking at Vegan Gains, Richard, to borrow a lyric from Effie, in some ways, you are a dollar store Gary Yourofsky. In some ways, you are the next rageaholic, self-indulgent madman to get on center stage in the vegan movement after Gary Yourofsky burnt out. It's not your fault. You didn't really even choose to put yourself there. As you say, I gave this concession to people like Durian Ryder and Freely also up to a point. Richard, your ethical position is just that you want to play video games and live stream and do whatever you want to do and offer commentary on whatever movies you've been watching. I understand you did not put yourself forward to step into the shoes of someone like Gary Yourofsky, whereas, you can look at other people like Joey Carbstrong and, maybe they have more formally proposed themselves to take on a leadership role. I think that's significant. However, Richard, you're someone who engages in political debate on the internet. You're someone who engages in political criticism on the internet. You're someone who engages in politics on the internet. And above all else, you're someone who engages in ethical philosophy, moral philosophy, overtly presented as such. You should have been able to respond to this question about what is the meaning of life, what does it mean to lead a meaningful life, with a lot more grace and dignity than you have. You should be able to respond to this like Bill Clinton, or better, and you should be able to do it for yourself, and you should be able to do it for the future of the movement. So, guys, if it's ever possible to avoid, I avoid sharing people's private correspondence with me. But what Richard wrote to me privately is very similar to what he said publicly lately. He insults me about the size of my penis and stuff like that. And here is my reply. Richard, do you think there is such a thing as legitimate discussion of ethical and political differences? See the attached image. I'm not claiming that I'm right here. For example, playing video games is not a simple factual question like, will smoking cigarettes cause cancer? I'm claiming that I'm having a discussion about what it is to have a meaningful life. Period. Yes, that's a legitimate area of political and ethical philosophy that you also, as a public figure, engage in. Let's take a look at what the attached image was. This is a public comment on my own YouTube channel. Someone gave a kind of mixed defense of vegan gains. As you can see here, quote, I am not a fan of vegan gains, but he does reach a particular demographic. Then I reply, yes, but this is the beginning and not the end of the discussion. My own views also are open to near infinite critique. Being a public figure and talking about morality, ethics, and a social movement like veganism makes all of these questions inevitable. And in Vegan Gains' case, he primarily prefers to speak in terms of ethical philosophy. So yeah, it's hardly surprising that someone like myself would then question or discuss the choices he makes ethically. It's not surprising, Richard. So why are you so utterly taken by surprise by this? Why don't you have something more meaningful and measured and gathered to say about this? Why don't you have some more depth, some more moral fiber, some more character, even if for you this totally comes out of left field? Because you engage in hours-long debates about ethics and moral philosophy on your channel every day. So someone like me, who's a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, suggesting that there's a more meaningful use of your time than live streaming video games. Why are you so hyper-fragile and so hyper-vengeful in response to that? I think we all know the reason why. Yes, that's a legitimate area of political and ethical philosophy that you also, as a public figure, engage in. You need to be able to regard these differences of opinion as legitimate. Compare, for example, a response to Effie, whom you know. I'm capable of positively appreciating dissent, and that even shows in my interactions with Isaac, etc. Period. You aren't. Period. I hope you get older and wiser. You don't want to hear what I was doing when I was your age. For those of you who don't know, I'll give a link below this video. Effie is a YouTuber and obviously to some extent a musician and creative person. And he put the work in to make a song that to some extent is criticizing me or to some extent is a parody of me. And I think some people were surprised when I basically gave him a positive shout out in response to that. I'm doing it right now again. Shout out to Effie. And I said, yeah, I'm going to promote this, send the link through my Patreon and my Twitter and stuff. And doing it now on YouTube. I'm capable of positively appreciating dissent. Positively appreciating creativity, parody, self-parody, criticism, and self-criticism. Especially when it's about, the actual substance of what it is we're supposed to be debating here, right? Richard, you're engaging in misdirection and changing the topic and dishonest tactics that you would never accept in a debate with Unnatural Vegan or with a carnist or with anyone else. You're doing things that you should be ashamed of because they're exactly the same things that you try so hard to make others feel ashamed of when you're in your very one-sided and uneven debates with them. So Richard, I kind of do feel sorry for you. You've made it very clear that when you look back at your life, what you wish is that you'd spent more time playing video games and that you could make more money doing it with less effort to be like the live streamers you idolize, people like PewDiePie and Ninja. And you actually claim that I'm jealous. You imagine that when I look back at my life, I wish that I'd spent more time playing video games and making money by live streaming myself playing video games. That's really not a debate that we can have, Richard. There's no further to go with that in terms of just how deeply you've misapprehended the situation that each of us is in, respectively. And Richard, I know you want to try to denounce me by saying that I've accomplished nothing, I don't know, in the last 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. I learned Chinese, Richard. When you first got to know me, when we first talked, I didn't speak, read, or write Chinese. And I'm actually really open to discussing the extent to which learning Chinese was a mistake or a poor choice or was a waste of my time. Compared to live streaming video games, I don't know. Compared to collecting motorcycles. Or look, like I say, there's really no further for this debate to go because you've engaged in derailing it again and again from the real issue. And the real issue is, it's a legitimate area of discussion and conversation. What is the meaning of life? What does it mean to have a meaningful life? And what should any of us do now in 2019 when in many ways the vegan movement is at a low ebb, and it's at a very low ebb precisely because of people like you, Richard, precisely because of people like Gary Yourofsky, people who have been so stupid, so inept, even compared to the low standards set by other political leaders like Bill Clinton.
Dun, 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 dun.